C'était le Régional Thor suivi des prévisions météo. La nuit a été particulièrement pluvieuse à Yaoundé. Nous espérons que le soleil nous inondera de ses rayons généreux tout au long de cette journée. Comme on le dit, soleil dans le ciel, soleil dans les cœurs. Madame, monsieur, restez positifs et surtout continuez de distiller tout autour de vous des ondes positives. Cameroun, dès la édition de ce jeudi 7 octobre 2021, demandez le programme. Nous parlerons des conclusions du forum des gouverneurs de la commission du bassin du lac Tchad, travaux qui se sont tenus à Yaoundé avec un triple enjeu sécuritaire, climatique et de développement. En posture d'invité ce matin, le gouverneur de la région du Nord, Jean Abatédi, répondra aux questions d'Augustin Guizana. Comment effacer du tableau de l'école la consommation des stupéfiants? Une interrogation à laquelle nous tenterons d'apporter des réponses en compagnie de nos invités sur le plateau. Nous enfourcherons également nos vélos sur la route du Grand Tour cycliste international Chantal Bia. Tout de suite sur le plateau de Cameroun Delight, Yves FOMUSO. Bonjour.
Good morning, Nana.
Comment vous allez ce matin?
Très bien, et vous?
Ça va par la grâce de Dieu. Très belle veste, ça vous va à ravir.
Thank you very much. I want the day to be bright.
Merci. Alors, que disent les journaux ce matin?
The papers are talking about the Prime Minister still on his visit to the Northwest region in Bamenda. They're talking about him meeting with the people and saying that it's time for the population to get back to their normal activities. It is really time for that. So the Prime Minister was speaking yesterday in Bamenda. We have those stories. We have that in the newspapers. The newspapers too are talking about the Africa France Summit that will take place as from tomorrow in Montpellier. The papers say...
Un sommet, nouvelle version.
Exactly. That more than 500 youths are expected in Montpellier to discuss issues related to development, innovation. So we'll find that in the newspapers.
Madame, monsieur, restez connectés. Tabloïd avec Yves FOMUSO.
Hello, tabloids on CRTV's network service. Thanks for making it a date. Let's take a review of what the papers are saying in Cameroon. The Guardian Post newspaper says some secessionists in the Northwest region have dropped their arms. Dreaded general and 12 others dropped their arms yesterday and want to reconcile. The paper says Amba General and 12 others publicly surrender, hand over weapons. At least 13 young men presenting themselves as former Ambazonia separatist fighters and the Northwest regions were presented before the Prime Minister, head of government, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, in Bamenda as the latest batch of repentant fighters. The group led by the self-proclaimed General Scatter surrendered before the Prime Minister at the ceremonial ground at Commercial Avenue in Bamenda. The repentant fighters in their early 20s apologized for picking up weapons against the country and added they are now ready to pledge allegiance to their fatherland, Cameroon. It is a story you don't want to miss out in today's edition of the Guardian Post newspaper. Défi Actuel says the Premier, Dr. Joseph Diongute, has announced the resumption of work on the Bamenda-Babajou Road by the end of October, by the end of this month. You understand that the Prime Minister is there in the follow-up of the Major National Dialogue to see just how far the recommendations, how far they have gone with implementing some of the recommendations of the Major National Dialogue 2 years after the Prime Minister made the announcement as he entered the second day of his trip to Bamenda to present the achievements made so far in terms of the implementations, as I just said, of the recommendations of the Major National Dialogue. And so, addressing the public at the Bamenda ceremonial ground, the Prime Minister said the works will resume by the end of this month, and by the time he visits Bamenda again, the works must have been advanced or completed. The populations expressed total gratitude to the head of state and to the government for making strides to ensure that activities return to normalcy in Bamenda, regional capital of the Northwest region. Cameroon Business Today writes something else. It talks about stabilizing a region ravished by conflict is no easy feat, particularly when the region remains a hotspot for violent acts perpetrated by extremist groups. Yeah, Cameroon Business Today is talking about the Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum that ended Tuesday in Yaoundé. It says approximately 10.7 million people in the Lake Chad Basin region, parts of Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria, are directly affected by this crisis, and close to a quarter of that number have been forced to flee their homes due to conflict caused by the Boko Haram insurgency. Despite this reality, a different story is being told on the ground. Units spread out over 7 key impact areas: education, health, security, justice, environment, communal support, and livelihood. The Lake Chad Basin is being transformed, and its people are at the heart of it. Over 30,000 households have been provided with access to health care, education, justice, alternative livelihood options, and over 1,800 houses, market stalls, and water lines. You understand that the Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum was just an occasion to review and analyze some of the decisions that were taken during the last Governors Forum in Niger. And so the governors pledged to come together to rally funds in order to help support humanitarian and security development in the Lake Chad Basin area. So you can read details into this edition of Cameroon Business Today. What does the future hold for young Africans? L'Economie questions in its cover story for today. Over 500 youths are expected in Montpellier for the Africa-France Summit. The paper says 4 years have passed since French President Emmanuel Macron spoke to students at the University of Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso about a new chapter in France's relationship with Africa. Reinventing this relationship is the motto for this week's summit that will open tomorrow, Friday, in France. President Emmanuel Macron to lead discussions at the Africa-France Summit in October says it's not a summit that will change relations between Africa and France. However, he says the summit is the start of a very long phase that will last one or 2 generations. The Africa-France Summit is expected tomorrow in Montpellier. Le Financier d'Afrique adds that instead of other heads of state, as it used to be a heads of state summit in France. This time around, Macron is inviting hundreds of young business people, artists, and sports figures to the southern city of Montpellier. The aim is to listen to the words of African youth and to leave behind obsolete formulas and frameworks, said a French presidential official who asked not to be named. The meeting comes at a delicate moment between France and many of its former colonies in French-speaking Africa as a row rumbles on over a decision to cut cross to citizens of Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. Algeria recalled its ambassador after Macron reportedly said the country was ruled by a political military system, while tensions have erupted between France and Mali over plans to deploy Russian mercenaries as part of an anti-jihadist fight. You want to get details in the most recent edition of Le Financier d'Afrique. We put an end to tabloids with Emergence newspaper. It says Cameroon is budgeting over 13 billion CFA francs to prepare or to host the Africa Football Cup of Nations. The budget was revealed in a letter dated September 17, 2021, sent by Minister of State Ferdinand Gongo to Prime Minister Joseph Diongute to report the President of the Republic's approval of the set budget According to authorized sources, the paper says the approved budget is 15% below the 26 billion requested by Minister of Sport Narcisse Mwele-Kombi to organize the sporting event. Also, the 13 billion CFA francs will not be managed by the Ministry of Sports alone. Instead, 14 ministries and public institutions like the General Delegation for National Security will take part in the management of that budget, initially planned to be held in Cameroon in 2019. You can read more in today's edition of Emergence newspaper. That does it for Tabloid and CRTV's network service. Thanks very much for watching. Most of the newspapers sell at 400 francs. Get to the newsstands, grab a copy at 400 francs. Read, encourage the press. Do have a beautiful day.